Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through, well, stacks of sources and research to pull out the key nuggets of knowledge, helping you get informed fast. Today, we're diving into a story you almost certainly recognize. It's permeated our culture for generations, but surprisingly, many of us get fundamental details totally wrong. We're talking Frankenstein.
That's right. We all know the monster, that image,
Yeah.
the chilling tale.
Yeah.
But there's so much more going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really uncover the brilliant mind behind it all, Mary Shelley.
Yeah, we want to unpack the genesis of Frankenstein, look at its big themes, clear up those common mistakes, and really reveal Shelley's insights. Insights into science, society, the human condition.
And critically, look beyond just Frankenstein to her other novels, which are powerful but, well, less famous.
Absolutely can.
Let's get into it. To really understand Frankenstein, you have to start with Mary Shelley's life, which
Right.
was extraordinary. She grew up in London, daughter of the philosopher William Godwin. I mean, can you imagine? Surrounded constantly by intellectuals, radical writers from birth, pretty much.
It definitely shaped her. That kind of environment absolutely fostered her writing, her curiosity. It's quite remarkable how directly her life seems to fuel her art right from the beginning.
So tell us about Percy Shelley.
All right. Well, in 1812, she met Percy Bysshe Shelley at her father's place. He was already, a published poet moving in those circles.
Okay.
Then, fast forward 2 years, 1814, Mary's just 16. Percy's 5 years older and already married.
Yeah.
And they start this, well, scandalous affair.
And her father, Godwin, the radical philosopher, he wasn't happy.
Not at all, which is maybe a bit ironic given his own views. But yeah, he disapproves strongly. So Mary, Percy, and her stepsister, Claremont, they just took off, eloped to Europe.
Wow, just like that.
Pretty much. They faced real money struggles initially. It wasn't until Percy's grandfather died and he inherited some funds that they found a bit more stability.
And that stability allowed them to travel to Geneva, Switzerland.
Exactly. Which brings us to that legendary summer,
Yeah.
1816.
The famous year without a summer.
Right. Mary Shelley herself called it a wet, ungenial summer. She was there with Percy, Lord Byron, and Byron's physician, John William Polidori, staying near Lake Geneva.
And stuck indoors because of the weather.
Yeah, so to pass the time, they started reading German ghost stories from a collection called Phantasmagoriana.
Okay, I love this part, the origin story.
It's great, isn't it?
Oh.
So Byron throws down a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has to write their own ghost story.
But Mary struggled at first.
She did. She later wrote about how anxious she felt, being asked every day, have you thought of a story, and having to say no. It was mortifying, she
That's
said.
it.
Until one evening, the conversation turned to, well, the very principle of life. They talked about Erasmus Darwin's ideas. He was Charles Darwin's grandfather, by the way.
Right.
And Luigi Galvani's experiments, with electricity and muscle contractions.
Galvanism.
The spark. Literally, perhaps. Maybe. Those discussions clearly ignited something. She described having this waking dream, a really vivid, kind of terrifying vision of a student, a pale student of unhallowed arts, kneeling beside the thing he'd put together, a creature made from body parts, and then seeing it stir, come to life with some unnatural, powerful engine.
Chilling. And that was it, the birth of Frankenstein.
That was the core idea
Yeah.
right there. And, connecting this back to her life,
Yeah.
it feels so potent.
How so?
Well, think about the themes in Frankenstein: loss, guilt, creation, abandonment, defying nature. These aren't just abstract ideas for her.
No, they're deeply personal.
Exactly. She lost her own mother just days after she was born. She had this complex relationship with her father. And significantly, just the year before, in 1815, her first child, a daughter named Clara, died prematurely, just weeks old.
Oh, wow. That experience of creation followed so quickly by loss.
It must have been incredibly profound. You can almost feel that echoing through Victor Frankenstein's story, the creation, the horror, the abandonment.
Okay, so let's unpack the novel itself. And we have to start with the biggest misconception, right? The name.
Definitely. You hear that line, knowledge is knowing Frankenstein isn't the monster. Wisdom is knowing Frankenstein is the monster.
It's clever, but it plays on that fundamental error.
It does. So let's be crystal clear. Victor Frankenstein is the scientist, the creator, the creature. Well, the creature is nameless in the novel.
Right. He's called wretch, monster, fiend, demon, anything but Frankenstein.
And that common mistake, calling the creature Frankenstein, it really took hold after the famous 1931 movie by James Whale. It wasn't from Shelley.
And the creation itself in the book,
Yeah.
it's not quite the Hollywood lightning storm, is it?
Not at all. It's actually much vaguer and maybe more disturbing because of it. Victor spends 2 years on this. He discovers some elemental principle of life. He talks about infusing a spark of being into the lifeless thing.
He gathers materials from less savory places.
Dissecting rooms, slaughterhouses, yes.
Oh.
But the exact method, how he animates it, Shelley leaves it ambiguous. It's not just flipping a switch in a storm. That ambiguity makes it feel darker somehow, more like forbidden knowledge.
It does, and the way the story is told is also really interesting, the structure.
Oh yeah, the narrative structure is brilliant. It's often called a Chinese boxes or nested narrative structure.
Explain that a bit.
Well, the whole story starts with letters from this explorer, Robert Walton, to his sister. He's up in the Arctic.
Okay.
Then Walton meets Victor Frankenstein, who's near death, and Victor tells Walton his story. So that's the next layer.
Right.
But then inside Victor's story, we get the creature's own account of his life, told directly to Victor. That's the innermost box.
So you get these different perspectives nested within each other.
Exactly. And it creates this effect. Some critics compare it to Conrad's Heart of Darkness, this sense of layers, of maybe denied reality, like you have to peel back the layers to get closer to the truth, and maybe society or even Victor can't quite face that core truth.
And the creature's story, when we finally hear it, it's heartbreaking.
It really is. His first moments of consciousness, figuring out the world, learning about fire, language, he learns by secretly watching this family, the DeLacys.
And he tries to help them, right? Leaves firewood for them.
Yeah, secretly. He develops this deep sense of empathy and a longing for connection just by observing them. But then
Then he reveals himself.
and they react with horror and drive him away, purely based on his appearance. That rejection is, well, it's the turning point.
It fuels his rage, his desire for revenge, and his demand for a companion.
Right. He desperately wants acceptance, community. He asks Victor to create a female companion for him.
But there's a problematic aspect to that request too, isn't there?
There is. While you understand his loneliness, he kind of views this female companion as, well, as an object, something to solve his problems, which, ironically, mirrors Victor's own mistake in creating him without considering the consequences or the creature's own needs.
And the creature sees himself. How does he describe himself?
It's powerful. He compares himself to Adam, the first creation. He says to Victor, "I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel,
Lucifer.
whom thou drivest from joy for no misdeed." He feels utterly abandoned, unjustly punished.
Which brings us back to Victor. Can we see him as a tragic hero?
Oh, absolutely. That's a very strong reading. He has immense talent, intelligence, drive, but it's completely untempered by wisdom or foresight.
His hubris.
Exactly. His ambition, his obsession with his scientific breakthrough blinds him to the ethical implications, the human cost. He creates life that immediately recoils in horror and abandons it.
And his attempts to fix his mistake just lead to more tragedy.
Right. His obsession consumes him, destroys everyone he loves, and ultimately leaves him,
Yeah,
dead and alone in the Arctic, chase the monster he created. It's the classic tragic trajectory.
And this critique of Victor, it ties into Shelley's broader critique of the romantic ideals of her time, doesn't it?
It really does. Which is fascinating because she lived among the romantics, Percy Shelley, Byron. But she often seems to push back against their ideas of, limitless ability, the sort of heroic, unfettered individual genius.
Victor seems like a direct challenge to that.
I think so. His egotism, his ambition that makes him neglect his family, his responsibilities, it reads like a satire, or at least a very stern warning about those romantic excesses.
Yeah.
She's saying, look where this unchecked ambition can lead.
It's quite a bold move for someone so embedded in that world.
Definitely. And her critique extends to science itself. The novel sets up a contrast between Victor's approach, this ruthless ambition, wanting to command the thunders of heaven, as he puts it, to essentially conquer nature.
Right.
And a more measured, maybe more respectful approach, like the ideas of Erasmus Darwin, perhaps. Understanding nature without trying to violently disrupt its equilibrium.
And the character Henry Clerval represents that too.
Yes. Victor's friend Henry, he finds solace in nature. He's interested in languages, culture. He's a foil to Victor's destructive scientific obsession. He represents a more balanced way of engaging with the world.
The novel also just holds up this ugly mirror to humanity, doesn't it? About prejudice.
Absolutely. The creature's rejection is immediate, visceral, and based entirely on how he looks. Society's fear and prejudice are what turn him into the vengeful being he becomes.
So the monstrosity isn't just inherent in him.
No, it's arguably created, or at least significantly fueled, by human cruelty and lack of compassion. The novel really forces you to ask who the real monster is.
A question that still feels incredibly relevant.
Doesn't it just? And then there are the feminist readings.
Yes, the birth myth interpretation.
Right. Critics like Ellen Morris pointed this out powerfully. They argue Frankenstein is deeply influenced by Shelley's own experiences, pregnancy, childbirth, the death of her baby.
Exploring the anxieties of maternity.
Yes, and maybe even the horror of birth itself. And crucially, what happens when a man tries to have a baby without a woman? Victor usurps the female role of creation, but does so monstrously, without nurture, without connection.
That adds a whole other layer of meaning. It's incredible how rich the novel is.
It truly is, and that's why it's vital to remember Mary Shelley wasn't just a one-hit wonder. Frankenstein is monumental, but she was a prolific professional writer.
So let's talk about her other works. They often get overlooked.
They do, unfortunately, but they show her developing voice, consistent themes. Valpurga, her second novel, is fascinating.
How so?
It starts with this sort of fairy tale feel, witches, princes, but then it completely grounds it in harsh reality. It's about Castruccio, this historical figure, and his relentless pursuit of power that basically destroys his soul.
So a critique of ambition again.
Very much so. It critiques that obsessive drive, showing how love and family, these softer virtues, just can't survive in his path. The fate of the heroine, Euthanasia, whose name chillingly meant an easy death. Back then, her pure death just highlights the suffering caused by this power obsession. It's quite bleak, possibly reflecting her grief after Percy's death.
Wow. Then there's The Last Man.
Yes, an early dystopian novel set in the 21st century, remarkably. A plague wipes out almost all of humanity, leaving just one man, Lionel Verney.
Themes of isolation, obviously.
Huge themes of isolation, yes, but also a really sharp critique here of intellectuals like Lionel. He and his circle kind of retreat into knowledge and art, detaching themselves from the messy reality of humanity. Shelley suggests they get a just reward for this abandonment. It's a warning against intellectual isolationism.
She didn't shy away from difficult themes.
Not at all. The Fortunes of Puck and Warbeck is another historical novel meticulously researched. It follows this claimant to the English throne.
Arkman Warbeck.
Yeah, right. And even though he's portrayed somewhat sympathetically intelligent, virtuous in some ways, his refusal to give up his quest for the crown leads to tragedy.
But the focus shifts.
Well, what's really striking is his wife, Catherine. At the end, after all the political maneuvering and bloodshed, she refuses to renounce the world. She chooses love, connection, as the only real lasting value, completely rejecting the glory-seeking bombast of male ambition.
Strong statement.
Very. And her later novels, Lador and Faulkner, almost feel like a reconciliation couplet. They explore loss, but move towards restoration.
Okay. Tell me about Lador.
Lador focuses on recovering a lost mother figure. The heroine, Ethel, has to navigate all these legal and financial barriers. But what's really significant is how the novel directly tackles the education and social role of women.
How so?
It critiques the patriarchal culture that limits women, but it goes further. It actually proposes egalitarian educational paradigms. Really quite progressive for the 1830s.
And Faulkner?
Faulkner finds resolution through restoring a father figure. And interestingly, it's the only one of her novels where the heroine's goals truly triumph. It explicitly shows female values compassion, loyalty, endurance, overcoming violent and destructive masculinity.
That's quite a shift.
It is. There's even this passage about the heroine's education, mixing masculine subjects like abstract knowledge with traditionally feminine skills like needlework and household order. Shelley argues a woman needs both to be whole, pushing against those rigid gender roles of the time.
She sounds like a force to be reckoned with, not just as a novelist.
Absolutely. She was a professional author through and through. She wrote numerous biographies for a popular series, Dionysius Lardner's Cabinet Cyclopedia.
That required serious research.
Prodigious research, yes. And she used these biographies, often about historical figures, to make subtle but definite political interventions. She was interested in feminist historiography, ways of retelling history from a female perspective.
Like critiquing.
Like critiquing institutions like primogeniture, the system where only the eldest son inherits everything. She brought these critiques to a wide audience through these popular biographies. She saw herself as an author, an intellectual, contributing to public discourse.
So bringing it all together, Mary Shelley was clearly so much more than just the author of Frankenstein.
So much more. She was this incredibly insightful, often quite radical writer who consistently explored these huge themes: creation, responsibility, the dangers of unchecked power and ambition, gender roles, societal prejudice.
And she wasn't afraid to challenge the big ideas of her day, even within her own circles.
Not at all. From romanticism's potential pitfalls to the injustices faced by women.
And her work feels, well, it still feels incredibly relevant.
It really does. Her concerns about science outpacing ethics, about ambition without wisdom, about the need for compassion and connection in the face of prejudice, these resonate so strongly today.
Her works are a powerful reminder, maybe, that the monsters we fear are often reflections of ourselves, of our own societal failings.
Well put. Knowledge without wisdom, creation without responsibility. These are timeless warnings.
So a final thought to leave our listeners with. If Victor Frankenstein's tragic flaw was that ambition, that drive, untempered by foresight or understanding the full consequences, what current human endeavors, maybe scientific, maybe technological, maybe social, what are we pursuing today with similar blind spots?
That's the question, isn't it? What potential monsters, metaphorical or otherwise, might we be unleashing without fully grasping the implications?
Something to think about.